B&H Photo and Video just delivered a package from New York to me today at the church. I ordered a new camera, which only happens like every couple of years. And so I'm super excited, and we're just gonna take a few minutes and unbox it during lunch. Let's go. So gear is a challenging thing for me. It's this love-hate relationship. I love getting new gear. I love researching. I love learning the specs. I love finding out which camera is best or what lens do I need next, but I hate adding new gear into my kit. So whenever I add new gear into my kit, it changes my complete workflow. How do I pack it? How do I travel with more gear? Which gear do I bring? Do I bring both of my cameras? Do I bring all of my lenses? It all changes every time you add new gear into your kit. But ultimately, adding new gear will make me a better creative. So today we're gonna spend some time unboxing the new camera that I just bought, and I'm gonna give you some tips on how you can get the most out of the gear that you have already and how to purchase new gear. So here we go. Ooh, hey, we got a bonus set of free shoes. All right, so we're at Babbler Park, which is just, I don't know, maybe a mile away from the church. Got my camera box here from B&H. So let's get it open. One of the things that I always try and do before I upgrade my gear is I try and maximize the gear that I have. And what I mean by that is I will try and push the limits of that gear. So say I got a new camera like I did. I try and push my other camera body as far as possible before upgrading to the next unit. So a good example of why I bought this is because I am to the point where now the 80D that I use, the main camera that I have, really is being maxed out. If you look at my Instagram, I can get amazing photos from a prosumer body. I can get really great videos from this 80D that I've been using for 2 years. But I'm getting into some higher paying jobs, and I think that it's just time that I start getting a little bit higher quality out of the video that I need. So I figured I might as well start to upgrade the process. All right, so one of the things that I love about B&H is that they always have good deals. And so with this camera, it's kind of a set price across the board, but they throw in some free things. So this package came with an Extreme Pro SD card, which is what I use, which is cool. Came with an extra battery, and it came with a bag that I will probably never ever use. I pretty much just use Peak Design bags. But what else we got in here? A bunch of packing supplies. Here it is. The Canon 5D Mark IV with Canon C-Log. The 5D Mark IV with Canon C-Log. Oh, this camera. I'm excited about this. I don't think that most people should buy this camera. Let me explain. I think that you can push consumer grade and prosumer grade cameras to the absolute max and get amazing quality out of those cameras. The reason that you would buy a camera that's this expensive is if you're a professional. And when I say professional, I don't mean you get professional results. I mean, you're getting paid for what you do. That's the bottom line. Unless you're getting paid for it, your quality that you can get from an 80D is way above just standard quality. It's a great camera. The same thing with some of the Rebel cameras. You can get amazing quality out of those. And you don't need to pay for a camera this expensive if somebody else isn't paying it for you. Bugs are everywhere. So once you get into the professional level, there's really 2 cameras in the Canon lineup that I would consider pro grade. The 5D Mark IV, which is about $3,100, $3,200, or the 1DX Mark II. And those are the 2 DSLR bodies that I was kind of looking at. The difference is the 1DX Mark II is like $6,000, and I just couldn't justify the difference between the 2 cameras for me to spend almost twice as much. So I got the 5D Mark IV. It handles 4K 24 frames per second and 30 frames per second. It has Canon C-Log, which the 1DX Mark II doesn't. And I think it's a big deal to have C-Log because that expands your dynamic range so that when you're shooting in really bright circumstances, you can keep those highlights, but be able to see the details in the shadow. That's what C-Log does for you. It's a really flat profile, it records everything kind of gray, and then it adds in more post-production work, and you just add in the color and saturation later. 1080p, it shoots 60 frames per second, 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second, and then it does shoot HD 120 frames per second at 720, which I may or may not use. I'm going to play around with it. One of my favorite settings for video is 60 frames per second because I can shoot 60 pictures in 1 second and then stretch it over a 24-second timeline, and that will give me slow motion, and it looks really good. In fact, the codec that they use on this 5D Mark IV is different than the codec that they use on the 80D. And basically all that is the container that it puts the video in. So I can get higher quality out of this 5D Mark IV. Also, it has a full frame sensor, which my 80D doesn't. That's another really big advantage of why I needed to get into the next camera. I'm gonna be doing some low light shoots in the next couple weeks and months, and I needed to have just a little bit more boost in my low light capability. So if you spent any time with me at all, you know how much of a Canon fan I am. And there's a reason why I'm a Canon fan. The main reason is because of its stability. No matter what I do to these cameras and these lenses, no matter what I throw at them, they can handle it. They're professional grade. People use these things day in and day out. And I've used other cameras. I shoot a lot of weddings with Sonys, and they just don't have the stability. They don't have the reliability that I personally want to spend money on. So, I love Canon. I love their color science. I love the features that they put in the cameras. I think that they're right at the right price point for professionals to be able to make quality photos and videos. Alright, another reason why I had to stay with the DSLR is because I wanted a hybrid camera. I wanted to get the most money out of the camera that I bought. I was looking at a C100 Mark II, which is a phenomenal video camera that has the same kind of specs that this does for video, but it doesn't shoot photos. And I do have some photo shoots coming up that I want to be able to get some really good quality photos. So, here we are, 5D Mark IV. Let's see what's in the box. Alright, so we have papers that I'll never read. I register all my stuff at Canon. What the heck? Got some coasters here. Those will be useless. Big fat book. 5D Mark IV. Manual. And we get to the good stuff finally. Got cables. That's fun. This is the eyepiece. This is the eyepiece. Goes on the back of the camera. We've got a battery. We've got 5D Mark IV strap, which is good. Got the battery charger. One thing I'll say about battery chargers is I always buy aftermarket battery chargers because they're half the size of this. They plug in with USB so you can charge it on a USB charger, and you can charge 2 batteries at once. So this guy will probably just stay at home. I'm glad to have an extra charger just in case. Alright, onto the camera. Here we go. The camera. Let's pull it out. Alright. It's beautiful. Alright, the 5D Mark IV. I love this camera. It feels so good. It's just slightly bigger than the Canon 80D physically, so it fits in your hand if you have a little bit bigger hands, a little bit better. It does not have an articulating screen, which I'm really going to miss. I wish that it had an articulating screen. One of the nice things about the 5D Mark IV is it uses the same battery that my 80D does, so I only have to have one kind of battery with me for both of my cameras. Say I'm doing a 2-camera shoot. Another really nice feature that it has that also my 80D has is it has a port for both audio in and audio out, which means that I can plug an external microphone in here and I can monitor the audio while I'm recording, which is really nice. Another feature of the 5D Mark IV is dual card slots. It has the SD card slot, which is really nice because I can use the same cards that I use with my 80D, but it also has the compact flash. So what I could do is I could double everything up so that I have a safety backup in case one card fails, or I can record video on one card and photos on the other, so that way it just cleans up my workflow once I get back to the computer. No articulating screen. I really am bummed about that, but if I needed a camera with the articulating screen, I can use my 80D. Like I said, it has a full frame sensor, big O sensor in there. It's beautiful. That'll help me with low light. It will also take better photos, higher resolution. It's 30 megapixels. Should be a good camera. All right, so there it is, the 5D Mark IV. I'm excited to have this camera in my kit. I can't wait to figure out how it all fits together in my workflow. I can do multiple camera shoots now. I'm really excited to see what happens, and I'll get some test footage up and go from there. Here's something I want to say about gear. Better gear does not necessarily make you a better creative. It might be easier, but it doesn't necessarily make you a better creative. I can get amazing results with a cheaper camera. I can get amazing results with an iPhone camera because the talents that I've learned and the principles that I've applied to my skill transfer over from camera to camera. And so if you give me an iPhone, I can get decent photos. If you give me a Rebel camera, I can get decent photos. If you give me an 80D, I can get great photos. If you give me a 5D Mark IV, I'm gonna be able to get good photos because I've built those skills into my workflow. So, what I'd like to say is don't go out and buy new cameras just because they come out with new ones. Wait until you've completely maxed out the capabilities of your camera and you need to bump up that quality, or you need to add in more additional cameras into your system before adding it. All right, so another thing about gear before we go, make sure to use whatever gear is appropriate for the situation. A good example of this is I went to drop Paisley off at preschool the other day, and instead of bringing my 80D on a Ronin-S with an 85mm f1.4 IS lens, I just whipped out my iPhone and took a video of her. And I got great content, and that moment is captured, and for what I'll use it for, the iPhone will be just fine. Another example of this is for the vlogs. I will probably continue to use my 80D. It is a perfect setup. It's low file sizes, it has the articulating screen, it does everything that I need it to for vlogging. And then I'll use my 5D Mark IV for more professional shoots, low light filming, high-end paid professional photography shoots, those kind of things for a camera that style. Alright, so there it is, my 5D Mark IV. I cannot wait to start using this thing on some shoots coming up. If you're curious about what camera you might need to upgrade, drop me a line in the comment section below and maybe I'll make a video on that. Or feel free to message me on Instagram or Facebook, whatever way to get a hold of me, and I'd love to talk through some of the options that you have that might be a good option for you to go to the next level of your photography. Cool, guys. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Cause you will always be the one to hold me. You will always be the one who knows me. You will always be, come on, let me closer to your heart. I'm waiting here for you. Yeah, I know you will always be the